Oh wow, Hangouts on Air is going away August 1st. What? So we're not live, I guess. We'll see if anybody's with us. But yeah, I just got a notification that they're changing something and doing YouTube. Is going away August 1st. Crazy. What? So we're not live, I guess. All right, so let's see if anybody else is here with us yet. How do I check that? Ugh, that was a pain. You still there, Charlie?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's start chatting, and then as we chat, maybe we can figure out if anybody is on. We had at least like 13 or 15 or something like that RSVPs, I think. I'm going to share the link as I'm chatting too, just to make sure people find it, because that's always annoying. We can't. Yeah, I'll put it right here. All right, so me and Charlie, for people who don't know, we're doing a book together, or a couple books together, a new series, and we're pretty excited about it. So we wanted to get on here and chat with you all. And sorry for the kind of us figuring it out as we go thing.
Yeah.
As far as these videos, it's always, I feel like I'm relearning it every single time. uh, I do not know how to see like where the chat is on these things. Somebody can tell me probably if they figure it out. But oh, there's a chat window over there, but that might just be for you and me. So I'll just put that there. And I think, oh, I remember. There's something about on the YouTube part itself too, where you can like click on something. I don't know. It says chat is disabled for this live stream. Oh, you're off to a rough start, ladies and gentlemen. How do you enable chat for a live stream? Maybe somebody in the Facebook group can tell us, huh? Or in settings. Yeah. Anyway, I will ask in the Facebook group, and then we'll see if anybody can tell us, and then we'll just keep talking from there. Because it's fun if people can come in and ask questions.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody who you are real quick, Charlie, and then I'll do my introduction too, in case anybody's joining us who doesn't know or watching this after the fact who doesn't know.
All right. So I'm Charlie. My author name is Charles R. Case, but I think I'm changing that just to Charlie Case. It's a little much. So, but I have been writing science fantasy. So I've got a series out called the Warm Age Chronicles. There's 3 books out now. It's going to be a 5-book series, I believe. But it's basically science fiction. And I started writing this series, and I just thought, what would be the best way to address the faster than light travel? And the first thing that comes to mind is magic. So, so now I have a series it's got elves and tieflings and all these different races, but they're aliens. And so it kind of ties back into old Earth and the kind of the ideas of where did these things come from, and there's an ancient Earth idea, and it turned out to be a lot of fun, and I think it ended up being a really good way to kind of jump into the sci-fi genre for me because I mostly read fantasy. And I'm starting to realize that people that read epic fantasy don't really read science fiction. And so for me, it's a good way to blend the two. I don't know, but yeah, that's who I am.
All right, cool. And for people who don't know who I am, I'm Justin Sloan. I've been writing fiction like professionally for 2.5 years now, full time, nothing else. And then before that, wrote on video games for a bit, and before that was at the Federal Reserve doing numbers things, financial analysis. So yeah, as you can guess, I'm now loving life because writing books is so much more fun than writing analytical reports. And so anyway, I got started writing fantasy, and I also did some sci-fi, and I've done alien vampires in space type things with Michael Anderle, and that's what helped me get to this full-time area. And then I went off and did some of my own stuff on the side, as well as a pen name thing recently, which we can chat about if people are curious. We have some crossover going on with that. So uh, let's chat about that. So that's what we wanted to bring Charlie on here for, was to chat about what we're doing. So for people who don't know, and we'll do a little cover reveal and like a comments section up to this video and to the chat inside of the author group. But basically what we're doing is a fun series, and it's called Supers Rise Up. And Charlie, do you want to give him a quick spiel, kind of like what's going on in the world? What kind of world is our hero starting off in?
So it's kind of it's a colony. three worlds colony. The first two worlds are pretty much settled, and it starts on the third planet, which is just bare bones. They've started colonizing the universe or the solar system just to kind of, so they're able to take this resource and do a lot of things with it. And there's a lot of tension politically and things like that. There's a split between the supers and the normal humans, which we call the normies. And there's a lot of political tension in the background, and it's kind of a bit of a story on class structure and how that impacts the everyday man, which is who our main protagonist is.
Yeah, and what we're doing, I don't know how much we want to give them away, so we don't want to get too much into it. But there's a new TV show coming out on, was it Amazon or Netflix that we were
Amazon.
checking out? Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Boys, right?
Yeah, I think it's called The Boys.
Yeah, so we're kind of excited to see that because it has some similarities to what we have going on. But also, if you've read Brandon Sanderson's The Reckoners, Steelheart is the first one.
Yeah.
Similar things going on there, where the issue is that not all supers are great, right? What we have going on is we're a semi-new colony, and the superhero people have started to get their powers from a certain part of the system, way that they're developing them. And as you might imagine, in those situations, not only good people are going to get powers, and some people are going to start abusing these powers. And so our hero starts off with not necessarily liking all of those people, and there's a lot of tension going on. So we're excited to see that The Boys is coming out. If it does well, I think it launches tomorrow too, the 26th.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna stream. What do you call it when you go through everything at once? I'm gonna binge it.
Yeah.
Binge watch that and see what they stole from us. But no,
Right.
I know it's an old. What is it? An old comic or an old book series? Comics, right?
I don't know, actually. It looks like a comic, but it might just be its own thing.
Yeah, we're giving away our lack of nerdiness that we need more nerd cred. Come on. All right, so let's chat about real quick what some of the exciting parts are. Like we mentioned, there's a little crossover. So here's always this weird part that I deal with, like how much to give away in videos, without spoiling. But there is definitely a crossover with, if you've heard of them, there's a series of books that I've been working on called Supers. It's the overall universe. And what we thought would be fun is to kind of have an unofficial, I'm calling it unofficial because it's also kind of unofficially linked to Syndicate Wars and some other books we've done, which is where we can have kind of tie-ins, but we don't like explicitly say anything in there. Right off the bat anyway, that gives any of that away. But we're letting you guys know, if you're curious about this, you definitely don't have to have read any of these other books. It actually takes place before a lot of, or all of the Supers books so far. So it's kind of like a prequel series, but it's not. It's its own thing. Of course, the prequel always implies it's kind of some other thing, filling in the blanks or whatever. But anyway, so if you've read those other books, it's going to be awesome because you're going to be like, whoa, this totally relates to this thing that I didn't understand before, and now you will. And then I'm doing this other series, book 2 and book 3 in the series right now. I'm doing another wink to people who know what I'm talking about. I mean, who've been reading these books, because I keep talking in that other group about how I'm doing book 2 and book 3. And in there, we were just talking about how we have another big connection, which is pretty exciting. But yeah. So have you written superhero books before, Charlie?
I've never written superhero books. Although I get a lot of comments on my War Mage series that it's very superhero-esque, or even almost a slightly anime-ish style.
Yeah.
Big powers and kind of the one-man army idea, which I think really relates to the super idea.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that. Like, what do you think is the difference? Do you find a difference when you're writing the two versus these books?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around in the beginning. Was this isn't magic, it's different. And I think because I've always read fantasy, and now I'm writing a sort of fantasy, I always kind of default to magic. And what I'm learning is superpowers kind of are magic. You just don't really need to explain the mechanics of them. It's the superpower, right? Like, that is the mechanic. It's Superman Yeah, there's like a backstory, but in the beginning, he was just a guy who could fly, and he was really strong, and had lasers in his eyes. And so, I think the best part about writing superheroes is the audience already has that suspension of disbelief. You don't
Yeah,
have to you don't have to work it up to it. It's already there, and I think it makes it really nice to write in because you can just get right to the story. You don't have to explain, you know, all these huge backgrounds. It's just accepted. And I really like that about writing superheroes.
yeah, okay, cool. When you do your magic books, do they have magic in the same way where it kind of just happens, or are you doing like the Harry Potter thing where they have to learn spells and whatnot?
Uh, so I love Brandon Sanderson, and I have watched everything he's ever put out as far as talks, and he has a whole series on that he teaches at BSU about how to write, basically, like how he writes. And one of those is on magic systems, and he
Hmm.
talks about the best part about a magic system is the limitations of the magic. And so and they've got to be unique and something like that. So when I did it, I kind of went for that idea to where yes, there is a learning curve. So it's a bit like the Harry Potter thing, but there's also a natural element that only certain people can be mages.
Yeah,
So and it has to do with how you can split your mind and things like this. So I tried to go a little bit of both, I guess, is the short answer.
yeah,
But yeah, it's I don't know. I would say a little bit of both. I mean, it starts out they're in school, but it quickly leaves there and they start learning on their own through experience.
yeah, yeah. I have some weird ones where, and I have some weird ones with magic where it's like they're learning through uh, kind of leveling up. So it's almost gamified. I have a new one that I did where the guy has kind of like a what do you call it in like the Paolo? I'm forgetting the word. You know when you can morph things, like when you turn things into metal,
Oh, like
into
polymorph,
gold. What's that?
polymorph, or like
Not that.
alchemy.
Yeah, alchemy. So
Okay.
I call it like a weird version of alchemy, where the guy basically, when he's young, he's like rocking like this, and he's thinking that he's just like has some kind of uh, problem, but and like somebody's playing some music that he can't stand, and all of a sudden the music changes to something he loves, and he's like, "What happened there?" Like these kind of weird things.
Mhm.
And then other things happen where he refers to it as alchemy. Of course, it's not really. And then later, when he finally gets this kind of magic, he's able to adapt it with his kind of mental alchemy, so that
Okay.
as he's trying new spells, he's learning, and he doesn't know how to comprehend it all. So he mentally adapts it with his alchemy into like a video game screen, so that he can actually see what's going on. And it's kind of
Nice.
like a weird self-taught
Yeah.
kind of magic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
like that. It lets you get into the game lit idea without having the game, which is
yeah. So you're
a
not
really
really
cool
in a
idea.
game, and it's not like you have to force it either. Like sometimes
Right.
we do the game lit, like my Shadow Core series is game lit in a sense that
Mhm.
she gets put into this armor that does level up because it's kind of like the Spider-Man armor in the first of the new Spider-Man movies. Uh, Iron Man tells him that he's given his armor but given it limitations, and then as he learns that he can trust him, he'll unlock some of the abilities of the armor, and it's basically leveling up, right? It's like, hey,
Right.
when you've leveled up to 2, I'll unlock this.
Yeah.
Same concept. So when I saw that movie come out, I was like, yeah, see, there it is, because some people were criticizing me that this was stupid. I'm like, it's the same. If Marvel did it, I can do it.
All
So
right.
anyway, so yeah, so sometimes you have these like different game mechanics, and for people who don't know what we're talking about, there's a whole system of books out there called Game Lit or Lit RPG, where a lot of them are in game, of course, like virtual reality, like Sword Art Online, the animation where you get stuck in the game and level up and all that. Anyway, our book does not have that, but we have kind of approached a little system. Well, we started off approaching cultivation to a degree, and
Yeah.
that's kind of there loosely, right? We're not like hardcore on the cultivation, right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's definitely got a bit of it in there, but it's not like the Will Wright level of cultivation. It's
Yeah.
much milder, but they do go through the leveling up through things like meditation, um, through battle and basically experience. So
Yeah.
there is a bit of the leveling aspect to it, but it's not really leveling. It's more what he can take kind of thing.
Yeah. Oops, are you still there? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah, I thought it wouldn't blink for a second. Okay. Yeah. One idea we'd had originally when we were chatting, if people were curious, was this idea of cultivating your powers. But one thing we don't want to do is force it. So it's like the similar
Yeah,
idea where we kind of let the characters and the story dictate it. Where if it to the degree that's natural, we're not trying to be like, ooh, how do we, right to market type idea where you're like, how do we pigeonhole this into cultivation? How do we make sure that we hit those marks so that it sells? We're just trying to tell an awesome story about superheroes in space and
right.
see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think the whole cultivation aspect of it came from a conversation that we had about, in your super universe, people don't really level up. And so we wanted to have a character that grew from kind of nothing into this. So how do we do that? And so I think it was a long conversation that kind of turned into this pseudo cultivation.
Yeah, well, so
I think it
yeah, but
works
you said
better.
it slightly backwards, which is in the Supers universe they do level up,
I'm
some of
sorry.
them,
Yeah,
only specific ones though. And so
right,
there's a reason. I mean, like what you said though is most of them don't level up. So it's
right,
kind of looking at why do some of them level up, and then one thing that we're tying in here is a relation to that, to where for these people it's not leveling up, but there is something that changes along the way that readers will get into eventually. That does explain that kind of. So
right,
kind of fun.
right.
I never know if this kind of stuff, these big broad universe things, do they turn off readers? Do they engage? Marvel's done a great job with it, to where viewers obviously love it.
Right.
And you have like the Michelangelo universe with the Arthurian Gambit stuff, which
Hmm.
is huge. You have I've done 8, no, I've done 12 books in there. 12? No, I've done 16, I guess. Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second, because I have the first 8, and then the character goes into space for 4 with
oh,
the
nice.
P.T. Hilton and Michelangelo, and then
Yeah.
I had the magic ones too, which are kind of after the fall of civilization, where magic, it's not exactly magic, but basically comes into play. So anyway, so these big broad universes are something that I love, and having come from the video game world where it's so collaborative, I love this process of working with other authors, trying to make worlds come alive. So I'm excited to have you on board with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really happy to jump in. I'm kind of I'm contemplating doing that with my own universe, kind of expanding it out and writing another series in it. Um, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like to me. So in comparison, me and you have vastly different portfolios.
Uh-huh.
I right now have 6 books out and only 3 in one universe. Um, so I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
With these large universes and cultivating them, do you find it easier to do on your own so that you kind of control every aspect of it? Or do you much prefer, because I know a lot of, getting books out, it's you can only write so many books. So
Mhm.
eventually you got to start, working with other people. But do you find it easier in the beginning to kind of cultivate these on your own or collaboratively from the beginning?
Yeah. Well, so let me go into some backstory for people who are familiar with the pen name work. And I'm gonna let people know that they shouldn't read those if they don't want adult content, because it has that. So one thing that happened is that with my Valerie books, my Reclaiming Honor books, I started getting a little not adult content, but hinting at that stuff here and there. And then a lot of readers were like, "Dude, no, stop it!" And so that's why I started a pen name, to be able to kind of explore that fun side of fiction. And a lot of readers love that. Those books sell way better than my other books did. So it's interesting, right? There's definitely a
Right.
readership for that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Anyway, warning, don't go read that stuff. Don't look it up. But if you're curious, email me, whoever is listening, and I'll send you the details because they're fun. But what I was going to say in that is when I first started those books, I was actually talking with my buddy who had co-written some books before, and we chatted about doing a book series, me from one brother's perspective, him from the other brother, and they kind of go off their separate ways, but then interact again later down the road. He ended up not doing that. He ended up writing a story that was similar but totally different, not related in any actual way,
Right.
except for the superheroes. And I was like, oh well, okay. But I had this idea in my head. I couldn't just let it die.
Right.
And so that's where my universe started expanding. Like instead of just being one story, I was like, I got to write the brother story. So I ended up
Right.
doing both, and then that expanded into more and more. So, kind of to answer your question, I find it a lot easier to do it on my own because I can trust myself and I
Right.
can, know all the details, and you don't have to try to make sure that it's all fitting. What's nice about what we're doing with yours is that it's separate enough to where if a reader picks it up, they're not going to be confused at all because it's before the fact, uh, and it's disconnected enough to where it's not the same characters. There's definite connections as far as if people recognize some stuff about the universe. There's different connections about other aspects that we'll explore down the road.
Right.
But it's great that we're setting it up in a way that doesn't really cause us to, put our feet in our mouth or anything.
Right.
Versus when I was writing Michelangelo, I had some of his characters appear in my book. And
Okay.
that gets dangerous because if the readers love how he did those characters and not how I did it, or vice versa, that's a whole can of worms. And then just other things with making sure they're in the right place at the right time in both series. And if they appear in other people's books, because there's other co-writers,
Right.
these kind of things. So I think it's a lot of fun to explore it with other people. But man, it like triples the work at least sometimes, depending
Yeah.
luckily we're doing it smart. So
Yeah. I like to think that with this series that we're doing, we're kind of building a bridge in the middle of nowhere.
yeah,
That's its own thing to the point where it functions as its bridge, right?
yeah,
And if we want, it can lead to these other places.
right.
So I think I do like this aspect that we can kind of do whatever we want with the series and then connect to it via later books.
And it's
Um,
a Sloan Case collaboration, not my other name, so that works out well too. And
right,
like what you said, like let's say it does amazingly well and Hollywood gets interested or something, because it's its own thing and it kind of stands unofficially connected. We could sell the movie rights to it and not have to worry about how that affects anything else,
right,
which I
right,
prefer. It makes it easier. Like we had a producer talking to me about the Anderley stuff, and I'm like, well, if we sell one book or series to you, we have to sell all of them to you, and
right,
that becomes a big deal because then you have to have all of the authors on board with that, right?
right.
Or at least Michael Anderley on board with selling all of his works, which is a lot. That's a big
Mhm.
deal. So you don't want to sell the movie rights to every like 50 or I mean, how many books is it now? Probably like 100. I don't
Yeah,
know.
150 or something. It's
Still, you're not
crazy.
gonna sell that for like $1,000, or
Yeah,
even 10.
no,
So it's complicated in that sense.
right.
Uh, yeah. So one thing I wanted to hit on though, for any authors who are in the listening or who might check out this video later, on this topic of broad universes, it's interesting. I I have been doing a lot of these broad universe things and noticing a little bit of a slump in some of these sales. And then I recently put out a new book one, and it just totally took off. And so I think there is something to be said about people getting a little overwhelmed when you have too many things, which is another reason I like that we're doing it kind of disconnected,
Mhm.
like its own story. Once you start getting all these stories that are like in this universe, in this universe, in this, people like that, but I think a larger percentage of people get a little overwhelmed and start
Yeah,
feeling like, if I have to read this book, I have to read all the books, or I'm going to feel
right,
like I'm left out, or maybe I feel like this book didn't have as much attention as that book, so I don't really want to bother with it, or you
right,
know.
right.
So I think
Yeah,
there's some
I
value in
I kind
scrutiny.
of felt that way when I started reading, just for some kind of research and see how other people were doing the sci-fi. I picked up some of Mal Cooper's books for the Aeon
Yeah,
14, and I read about 3 or 4 of them, and then I realized there's like 70, and I thought, "Am I reading these out of order? Like, what's going on?" And then I realized they had a whole book that was nothing but like read in this order for like for time, or you can read in this order for action, and less. It just became so much. I was like, "Wow, this is intense." Like,
yeah, yeah.
so, yeah,
That's
I
what I'm
feel like
saying. You don't know where to start sometimes. Even if there's a list of like start here, you're still kind of like, but do I really start there?
right, yeah,
you know. And with my books, I actually did some with Narnia too, where it's like chronologically wasn't written in the same way.
right,
Uh, so it's kind of similar on concept here, where I wrote some prequels and stuff, and then people start getting really confused because
yeah,
they're like, well, I want to read it in the order that it goes in time, but then you're going to have kind of spoilers maybe, or you might just, if you read the prequel in my series when you're supposed to read it, it's cool because it reveals all the stuff that you didn't know when you're reading the regular books in the order I want you to read them. So it's,
Right.
it's its own thing. It's kind of weird. I want to see if we can do a cover reveal in the chat. I'm not sure how that works. So I'm going to try to hit the screen share thing and see what happens as soon as I open it up, which I think is right here. Okay, yeah. So let's see if that works. So I just opened it up big, and I guess I have to minimize it a little bit so I can see the screen share button. Let's see if that works, ladies and gentlemen. And you can probably tell me if you see it. Well, let's see. So I hit that first. Boom. Now I'm going to give away all my secrets. People are going to see like me. Okay. And that maybe is the cover for our book if people are seeing it. Let me see if I go over to the video if we can see it or not. I don't think it's working. I think it's just sharing it with you maybe. But anyway, I'm going to cancel that now because that scares me. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I just like shared my whole computer system with everybody and now you have all my passwords. Yeah. Anyway. Well, I was going to keep it to half an hour and we couldn't figure out how to do the chat thing. So what we could do is we could try this again someday and see if we can figure out the chat angle. Like after the book's out, maybe readers will have some questions. And I'm sure some of the ones who've read the other books and are curious, like, what are you talking about crossover? I don't see it. We've kind of kept it hidden. So it's a little Easter eggy right now because we want new readers to not have to feel like there's too much going on or, so focus on just the books as they are in themselves. And later on, you're going to see some cool little crossover Easter eggs. So, do people know what Easter eggs are? Do you know when I say Easter eggs, what that means, Charlie?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. I was in a meeting at Telltale once, pitching some stuff, and I kept saying Easter eggs. And then one of the senior guys is like, I don't know what you mean, Easter egg. I'm like, what? And then I made a Princess Bride reference, and the guy didn't get that, and that really disturbed me. I'm like, come on, you can't be working creatively and not get a Princess Bride reference,
right? It's the greatest movie ever made. I'll argue that to the day I die.
Yeah, I've been introducing my kids to it, so
nice.
I'm trying to get them to learn all the quotes. And
oh yeah, it's the way to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thanks for joining me, Charlie. It's been good chatting. I hope everybody else found it valuable. And sorry we couldn't get the chat function to work or didn't know where to go for it or whatever.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but we'll be back. We'll try it again.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Check out the book. Oh, coming August 1st. We should let you know that. It's up for pre-order now, but we're going to do a day one discount. So for people who want to get on that, if you want to buy it now and support us at full price, that's awesome too. But there's going to be a day one discount. So, all right, all. Take care.
All right. See ya.